The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, in a circular to all the 11 electricity distribution companies last week, announced a 32.8% and 21.7% increase in the cost of electricity meters, translating to an increase in the price of a single-phase meter from the current cost of 44,896 17 kobo to a revised price of 58,661.69 kobo, while a three-phase meter will now sell for 109,684.36 kobo instead of 82,855.19 kobo. Now, here to address the recent rise in the tariff and meters is Oyebode Fadipe, General Manager, Corporate Communication, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Good morning, and it's good to have you, General.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's start with the first question. Now, 8 years after the privatization of the power sector, concerns are still mounting over the worsening state of electricity supply in the country. Why is this so still?
I'm usually very reluctant when I hear some qualifiers worsening. With profound respect, I don't know where that judgment is coming from, because it's not worsening. Now, and I'll tell you based on some statistical data. As at the time of privatization, generation was barely 2,000. Admittedly, the growth has been geometric rather than exponential. But to say it is worsening would mean that we are even dropping below the 2,000 that it was about 8 years ago. Right now, we have consistently stayed on 4,000, 5,000. Yes, we've not hit 6,000 megawatts in terms of what is available at any point in time in the grid. But it's not, with profound respect, not the position that it is worsening.
With the expansion of Nigeria in terms of population, don't you think that is worsening? If you try to, compare, the commensurability of this.
I still will not agree with the use of that word worsening. Population may have grown, but the megawatts available in the grid has also not been static, and it has not regressed. Rather, there has been some addition, some recovery at the generation, addition to the generation, and of course more recoveries will be done. So again, I want to very humbly decline that qualifier.
Okay, now tell us why metering is important, because a lot of Nigerians still don't see the point.
That would be very strange to say that Nigerians don't see the point, because if at least if not for nothing, the transparency that it brings in terms of the billing process or the billing of the customer. I mean, it's like you having a car and the gauge of your fuel tank is not working. But here is a honest driver. It will be a little bit difficult for you to trust that he bought fuel of XYZ amount of fuel. But when the gauge is there and you say take 100 naira or whatever the amount is, and you know the multiplier, you can always look at your gauge and do your arithmetic, and you know what quantity of fuel the driver has bought. So that transparency is there, that neutral arbiter. The meter itself is a measuring device by its own function. It's a measuring device to calculate what the customer has consumed. The disco will not be there 24/7. Using that personification, the person that will be there for the purpose of calculation between the customer and the disco or the service provider is the meter, and the meter is supposed to be a neutral arbiter. That's why we have always advocated that the location of your meter is very, very important. We don't want it in your parlor, we don't want it in your bedroom, we don't want it in your kitchen. Let it be at a point where we can gain access, where you can also see it. and ensure protection, so that anytime we come there, we can look at the meter, we can determine the integrity, we can see that it is working, and we can say, you and I, that is the service provider and the customer, can confidently say that what this meter is giving me is right. So, and I know very well that quite a number of customers, and we must be fair to them, there are quite a number of customers who want meters. There are also those who outrightly steal energy. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You can't have so many people in the country like that and you don't have some offline people and those who are actually people of integrity, people of probity. We have that mixture.
So we have a number of Nigerians, like you rightly said, that really want these meters.
Yes.
To help with this, back and forth about estimated billing and all of that. But it appears to be difficult to access these meters. And now we are seeing an increase in the cost of the meters by 30%. Now, isn't it going to discourage, the accessibility, of these meters?
Now, 3 issues have been raised here. 1, the issue of accessibility. 2, the issue of difficulty, and then customers' reaction to the issue of the increase. Now, for one, I think we need to understand the fact that NEC has done something that we can consider to be fantastic. And what is that thing? They have democratized or liberalized the metering process. You can either opt to take the one that you are paying for or opt for the national mass metering program. I don't know whether to rely on that statement or not, but I saw a statement last night unsigned. I just saw signed management, but I didn't see any physical signature on that document, where the document was purportedly speaking, with the voice of NEC, saying that the map does not eliminate the national mass metering program, which is supposed to be a free metering program, or at least customers are not parting with their money at the point of installation or in the process of trying to get the meter installed. So we must get the customers to understand that this new policy does not mean that the free metering program is still not there. That one is still there, which is funded by the federal government. 4 million meters are expected, and it will go around the country. I think for us in AEDC, our calculation is about 400,000. By the time we are able to access those 400,000 meters and we're able to meter all the customers, at least it will close the metering gap. It does not mean that metering will stop. Metering will always be there. Take Abuja structure, for instance. Abuja lives on estate, estate structure. You have estates springing up all over the places. And then if all those estates come up, they will need meters there. Okay, so inevitably metering will continue to be there. But what this program is intended to do is to crash the space, to close the gap, so that you can then say that at any point in time you don't have more than 30,000, 20,000, 5,000 customers to meter. By the time you are able to get to that place, the pressure will drop, the anxiety will leave there, and then people can confidently say, yes, there is metering. Now, that is one side of it. In terms of whether it will discourage customers, I don't think it will discourage. Rather, it will encourage. Again, this is my own perception. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this policy is a fantastic one because it has also given opportunity to whoever has the money to pay immediately. Now, it doesn't mean that that payment is gone. What it only means is that when you pay, you can recover your money through energy token over a period of time. So, in a sense, it's a liability on the discos because they have advanced you money that you have to pay over a period of time. Okay? And so, customers should have that at the back of their mind, that they are not losing their money in that sense of the word. You pay for it, but you get your money back because ultimately that asset belongs to the discos. So, again, it speaks to the fact that I have put a meter in a place here, the money has been refunded to me, I cannot move the meter from XYZ Street to BYE Avenue. The moment the money has been refunded to me, you don't have any right to move the meter from one location to the other. So ultimately, I look forward to the day when we will get to the point where at every tenant who moves from one location to the other can find a meter in the new place that he or she has moved to.
Now, what would you say the hike in, tariffs is actually timely, considering, how the country is, the situation in the country? Don't you think it will further impoverish Nigerians?
Now, when you say hike in tariff, I want to believe that means you are talking about the metering. Yes. Now, ordinarily, there's no time that an increase in anything is palatable to anybody. But when you look at the economic indices, when you look at the macro and microeconomic indicators in the country, you know clearly that some of these decisions are clearly inevitable. For one, we must understand the fact that discos are independent of the meter asset providers. We call them meter asset providers. They are completely, in fact, discos are not allowed by regulation to invest in any of the companies that provide the meters. So the companies themselves are independent. And again, that's another fantastic thing, because it's providing employment for some people. And so the social problem in the country is also being managed through that platform. But where am I going to? As independent players in the sector, they know their cost. I mean, take Daily Trust, for instance. You know the cost of production of your newspaper. You know the cost of running this studio. NBC cannot now come, or the Nigeria Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria cannot now come and say, this is how much you have to fix the selling of your newspaper. If it goes below the cost price, then they have to provide a subsidy, which is what government is doing. But again, government is saying, look, I cannot continue to subsidize because I don't even have all the money in the first instance. I have so many things to run after. I have health, I have education, I have security. I have quite a number of things to deal with. So the sector must be able to fund itself. So if there has been an increase, it must also be because the providers have also done their own arithmetic. They have seen that, look, I am in business. Cost of fund is there. The cost of dollar is there. The inflation in the country is there, and quite a number of things are also there that influence ultimately whatever the price of the meter will. Unfortunately, I seem to be speaking for them. I'm not qualified to, but as an industry player, that's why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking.
Of course. So now, isn't it a possibility that the government will, because part of the reasons that they are saying that is responsible for the increase in the price of the meters and all of that is because of the dollar and the exchange rate and all of that. Isn't the government in a position to provide the dollars, for these people?
You're asking me to tell you about how my grandmother and my grandfather met when I was not even there at all.
Because, the issue of power is so important to Nigerians.
I agree.
Nigerians have been struggling with this thing. And you can bet how it has impacted negatively on, our economy and all of that. So what happens to small-scale businesses? People who are just using this electricity to earn a living from day to day, and they will now have to spend extra on generators and the rest of them.
Well, I think meter and generator are two different issues entirely. If you have generator, you really don't need a meter. Anyway, speaking jocularly. But coming back to the point that you are trying to raise, like I said before, government is also in a tight corner in terms of its own finances. I'm not Minister of Finance. I don't have access to government funds and stuff like that, so I wouldn't know the war chest that government has. But at least we read newspapers. Thank God for the media through whom we see a lot. We get a lot of information. We have been constantly told that that government fund is not as much as what it would have wanted it to be, so that at the end of the day, it does not have the money. I also understand very clearly that electricity has its own political dimension, and that's why government is also trying to make sure that, okay, the companies are able to do some of these things, and then we're able to get out of it. Otherwise, I tell you the truth, it's not easy funding the power sector. All of us must be ready to take part of the responsibility. If government says it wants, if government allow the discos to even charge what will be break-even tariff, it certainly would be much more than what we are having. But it's also because that shock treatment or that bullet approach can also push the man that is receiving the bullet down, depending on where the bullet hits him. government is also very, very mindful.
And it appears the bullet is about to hit the man, because I mean, there is also another information that by next year, government is going to, remove the subsidy, on electricity and all of that. So,
well, my response is yes and no. I don't know whether government is going to remove it, but I also know clearly that government has been complaining about subsidy that it can no longer carry. So, I think these are pangs of birth, as I want to put it, and I think women can correct me if I'm wrong. Even the man feels it when the wife is going to the labor room. I mean, sorry about that, but the heat comes to us as well too. So, but I'm sure we will get. We just need to be a little bit more patient, consistent, and persevering, so that at the end of the day, we can get out of the current disturbing situation that we are in. Let's not forget the fact that whatever we are seeing in the last few years of privatization are things that had been there for about 100 years plus. I mean, the power sector had been in the hands of government for over 100 years. The investment in the sector has not matched the demand. As a matter of fact, we are even moving towards electric cars now, and green energy and all of those things. So the demand on electricity will continue to increase. But what is our investment profile in that regard? And I think it's very, very important that we always remember these little facts.
Okay, well, Nigeria is actually ranked as one of the lowest in grid energy consumption in the world, despite interventions and despite, giving electricity or power to other countries, other neighboring countries. Let's have your thoughts on this particular report.
Well, I don't know how they arrived at that data that they have. But let's even look at our own data here. 200 million people, or maybe a little bit more than that. Admittedly, all the 200 million people are not switching on electricity at the same time. All of them don't even use electricity. Okay, what I mean by that is that my children are living with me. They don't have their own separate place where they are taking electricity. It's inside the same house that all of us. So we may not have more than, say, 50 million Nigerians who are directly taking electricity. But take that figure for the purpose of this conversation. What is the worth of the grid availability of less than 20,000 to that figure? So even if the World Bank does not say it, we ourselves as a country, we have been humble and honest enough to admit the fact that our availability does not match our demand. And so that's why government started by privatizing. And so, okay, bring private equity into this sector. Let there be a joint participation in the funding of the sector, so that at the end of the day we can run faster than what it was when government alone was doing it. And I think there has been remarkable progress in this regard. Ughelli, for instance, Ughelli Power Station has done a lot of recovery. The power stations that we have up north here, Shiroro, Jeba, all of them are doing recoveries. Yes, it's not running at the pace that we want it to run, but again, the fact is, how much do we have to put into this? These things have become so obvious to us, one, by reason of the fact that the rate at which the world is advancing is very high. Two, we don't have the funds to match that pace. It's like you have a very intelligent child who is moving at such a pace that before you blink your eyes, that child is in the primary school. Before you blink your eyes, that child is in the secondary school and then in the university. And the child wants to attend a private university. And here is your salary that is not running, or your source of income is not running at the same pace. Occasionally, you slow down the child and say, okay, look, why don't you try this? Why don't you? Things like so. That's exactly where we are. But I'm also optimistic that as the market grows, I will continue to perfect all of the imperfections that are inside the market: legal perfections, policy perfections, technological perfections. The growth will be more because customers will have greater level of confidence. There are those who will also pay because so many people are also taking electricity and seeing it as as their own national cake, which is wrong. Yes, freebies.
All right, now, I mean, we've been talking about power for as long as I can remember. It has always been the problem in Nigeria.
One of the problems.
And one wonders, is there even any light at the end of the tunnel? We always say, well, there are projects on ground, there are things that are being done, to increase our capacity. Just how many thousand megawatts do we need for Nigeria, and what will it take to do that?
Now, United Nations calculation is that for every 1 million people, you need 1,000 megawatts. So if we go by that arithmetic, it means that we probably will be looking at 100,000 megawatts for 200 million people, assuming without considering that is the figure of our population. Now, in terms of what it will take to bring about that one is huge. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And luckily enough, we are at a time when you have multiple solutions. The grid solution is there, hydro, gas, and stuff like that. Again, it brings me to the fact that as we try to run this race, challenges come now and again. Take, for instance, the current gas issue that is going on all over the world. Our power structure in this country is skewed in favor of gas. We have almost about 75% power coming from gas. Hydro is cheaper and a lot easier to operate, but we have more of gas. Principally because, again, as an oil-producing country, we thought rightly too and sensibly that rather than flare the gas, we should also channel it to other means of use in this country. And power, I know that there is a gas to power policy in this country, which has helped a lot. But again, the gas problem has arisen, and government is tackling that gas problem. And I think we must give credit to government for that fact. But again, gas is denominated in dollars. So here we are, we want to fire our power stations, but we have to we have to buy gas in dollars. And what is the cost of dollar today? At least in the official market, is over 400 naira to $1. Now, if you were doing that business, if you started that business in 2013 or 2014, as the case may be, and you were doing that business at about 100 and something naira to $1, look at the exponential increase that has come into the cost of forex right now. Yet, what is the increase that you have seen in tariff? As the increase in forex, or which is one of your products one of your resources for production of electricity, as it matched the cost of your selling. So you see that the cost of tariff is pegged. But let's even leave that one, because that's a different conversation entirely. Coming back to the issue of how we are going to close that gap, it will require a lot of consistency, it will require a lot of courage, it will require a lot of perseverance, because the money to get the power stations to come on stream is huge. Even if you are going to go green and you say, okay, alternative solutions, solar panels and all of those stuff, it doesn't come cheap.
So, with all the conversations that are ongoing with the whole subsidy thing, it appears that an average Nigerian may not even be able to pay for electricity.
No, that's not, with profound respect, that's not the case.
Because if you look at the tariffs and the rate at which it is increasing, and the complaints about government, saying, look, we cannot continue to subsidize this thing. If government takes off its subsidy on electricity, will the average Nigerian be able to pay for power?
The current structure that we run, there's it's a band structure. You have band A, band B, band C, band D, and band E. There are those you still call the lifeline. There are still some people who are on the 4 naira per unit as we speak. Now, what their population is all over the country may be a different issue entirely, but there's still that provision that, okay, look, there are some people who are really, really down the social ladder, and they're allowed to be on what you call the lifeline. So if somebody is still paying 4 naira by now, at the risk of contravening adverts, there is this chewing gum that I buy now and again. One is 10 naira. It has a blue wrapper. I won't mention the name. That's chewing gum, 10 naira for one. And you and I know that the moment you extract the sweet in the gum, what you have left is exercise of your mouth, and you throw it away. And so in 3, 4, 5 minutes, you are done with that gum. Not to compare with electricity, that it takes you a bit of time before you can use 1 unit of electricity. For somebody who is paying 4 naira, I know clearly that the person may not have more than a television or lighting bulb or radio, and it must be one of those our mothers, old fathers and stuff like that in the village. So there's still those who can pay that amount, and then you begin to graduate it gradually like that, and then you get to the upper level. So the people that you regard as poor men will still have electricity.
But even at that, most Nigerians that have these meters complain that they're being ripped off.
How?
Because units they buy for a certain amount, it runs faster than it is supposed to.
Now, there are so many reasons that you can advance for that. Let's come from the known to the unknown. From the known, if availability is high, your meter will run. If your appliances are all working almost at the same time. You know, one thing I have discovered in this country, and it's not a complimentary comment. The moment electricity comes, oh, put on the microwave, go and iron your dress. Mummies know what I'm saying. Iron your school uniform. All of those.
Yeah, because things. There's no guarantee that the light will be there in the next 1 hour.
That's why I said it's not a complimentary remark. But the truth of the matter is that you're also consuming energy at that material time. True or false? You are consuming energy. So if you live in an area where availability is 16 hours plus, you're also consuming energy. When we were asked to stay at home on account of COVID, people came out to say, so you can give us light. But they forgot the fact that we shut down for the companies. Okay? And then the tragic thing, again, tragic, because people think that energy is so free. They now started complaining, my bill is too high. But you have been staying at home 24/7 for almost a week. You didn't go out. The children were on television. You were on some other things, maybe on your computer. Mommy was in the kitchen doing this. And then people said, our bill is too high. But what would have happened? The bill will naturally be high. So the point I'm trying to make is, when your consumption is high, your meter will run. Now, what is the unknown? It could also be that your earthing in your house is poor. The integrity has dropped. One thing we are advised to do is that over a period of time, say within a period of 10 years, you should replace your wiring in your house, check your earthing system and stuff like that. So that, because I'm not an engineer, so I'm not competent to speak about it, but having associated with them, so that Nigerian Society of Engineers does not come and bill me. But having associated with them, I have these little snippets of information here and there. So if your earthing is bad, it can affect the functionality of your meter, and that could also make it to function, again in quote, abnormally. But if you feel that integrity of the meter has been compromised, and I've had this complaint now and again, if you think the integrity of your meter has been compromised, please be courageous enough to report us to NEMSA. That is the standard organization of the power sector. They have a responsibility to go and check the meter and see whether the functionality of the meter is still what it ought to be. And whatever happens, they will be able to tell the customer, okay, the meter is functioning well or the meter is not functioning well, and we have the responsibility to replace it if the functionality compromise is as a result of our own action. If it's as a result of the action of the customer will have to replace it at a cost.
Okay.
All right. Now, let me just quickly ask you this, because of our time, from what I see. We have two things now in place, two programs in place. One is the mass metering program by the federal government, which is free largely, and then the other is
meter
for those
provider.
for those who are able to buy and all of that. If one needs a meter, he wants, maybe you should run us through for both programs. How do you access,
basically the same thing. Go to our website. www.abujaelectricity.com, access it, click on customer services, the drop down will show you new application. Click on new application if it's a new application, and then download the form, print it out. There's a watermark on it that says not for sale. I hear people saying that we collect money. We don't collect any kobo. You can go to any cyber cafe of your choice to go and download and print out that thing and then complete it. The same thing for both NMMP and for both MAP, the processes are the same. The only difference is the payment part of it. So that's the only difference.
So for the mass metering program,
yeah,
can you guarantee that some of your officials have not in one way been compromised by selling, these meters and all of that?
The question you're asking me is like a mother who puts a child on her back.
Because honestly, we have heard complaints, people saying that they buy and all that and all.
And then the old woman the mother is taking the child through the market and the child picks something and they say, come and vouch for your child. I think a sensible mother will say, let me check. Yeah. I won't say these complaints have not come. In fairness, I won't say these complaints have not come. But what we have always asked the public to do for us is give us this information. You won't know what is going on in our office, but I can say confidently, at the risk of making disclosure, staff receive query when information comes. A query administratively is a question and answer session. We have had this, especially if the customer documents it. We have had that you did A, B, C, D. True or false? No, I did not do it. Investigations will be done. And if you are found to be clean, you go. If you are found to be wanting, you will be sanctioned according to the rules and regulation. I won't tell you that we have a staff strength of over 3,000 plus and all of us are saints.
Give us an idea of the kind of sanctions that could come as a result of this compromise.
Usually you are either suspended or sacked depending on the gravity. If it requires that we hand you over to the police for further prosecution, we do so. Yes. But what I've seen now and again is you tell the customer, please document your complaint. Say, no, I don't want anybody to take anybody's job. Oh. I don't want anybody to die on my neck. Oh. If you don't want anybody to die on your neck, please don't complain. I've always told, see, there are times, it's not even there are times, at every time that customers come to tell me that my colleagues have compromised, I feel insulted. I'm sorry I'm using this word on air, but I feel very, very sad. I'm not claiming that this is the best human being in AEDC. There are quite a lot of people there. But those I have interacted with have one time or the other come to say, oh, thank you very much. You did this for us. You did this for... Did I? Thank God. Did it succeed? It succeeded. God bless you.
Okay, what's the time frame within which one should be able to access this meter once he applies?
It depends on the availability of the meter. It depends on the availability. Because we are not the ones providing the meters. Is provided by a third party.
You know why I'm asking this is because we have had situations where people say, well, because you have refused to play ball or maybe to induce, financially induce one or two persons, you are being frustrated. Again, the access to the meter is being delayed and all of that.
I hear this complaint. The media tries to hold us by the jugular with this complaint. But let me tell you a recent experience. About last month or 2 months ago, there was a publication by a visible media house, online platform. And I went round colleagues in the media to say, okay, look, I need to reach this reporter so that the reporter can give me the information about, more information about the customers that were interviewed who were complaining. I know that disclosure in the media is a very serious ethical issue. You are not supposed to disclose your source. I know clearly. That's the background I have come from. But I also know that if truly you want to help the customer, you need to be able to confide in me to say, okay, the customer's name is XYZ. This is the phone number. Provided I want to use it for the purpose of helping the customer. Because if a customer has complained to the media and the media has been courageous enough to carry that story, the only way you can help me as an organization is to give me more information about the customer so that I can frustrate whoever does not want the customer to get the meter. What I got was that, sorry, by ethics, I'm not supposed to disclose my source. What do you want me to do in the circumstance? I'm not a spirit. There's no way. I'm not going to get Directorate of State Security to start looking for some amorphous customers in the place. No. So we need the media in this circumstance. If you think you cannot disclose to the factory floor, go to my MD. In fact, we have a whistleblowing line. You can go to the audit and say, I am disclosing to you confidentially. These are the customers that complained. These are their complaints. They say people are asking for money from them before they can give them meter. Please, can you get them to get the meter without? At that level, nobody can stop the customer from getting the meter. Nobody. Okay. So we need the media to assist us in this regard. Please, I'm begging. Okay. Don't tell me. Go and tell my auditor.
Well, there are also those who do not have access to the media. This instance you gave is because they were in the media.
For those who don't have access to the media, thank God, whoever is listening to me now, don't come to GM Corporate Communications. Go to my chief internal auditor. Go and complain there. Go to our website, get the whistleblowers line, make that call. Anonymous. Nobody will disclose anything about you. Anonymous. We must be ready to fight this battle. Otherwise, it will eat us up.
Okay, now, before we wrap up, away from metering, in your honest opinion, do you think Nigeria has the capacity to provide stable power supply?
Thank God we're on air. I would have fought with you. Frankly, I would have fought with you, frankly. Why would I have fought with you? There is no part of the world where Nigerians are not making giant strides. One of our biggest advantages is that we have the population of men and women who are strong here. So to ask me whether we have the capacity to provide electricity makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Don't lose hope.
Is it not a hopeless situation?
It's not a hopeless situation.
Recently, let me bring that up here. TrustTV did a documentary on the Mambila hydroelectric project, in Taraba State, and it was shocking. The revelations, that years after that project,
it's still there.
Was introduced to us, and we always hear it on the news. So amount of money has been budgeted for these. 3 billion naira so far. That place, there's no foundation yet for that.
You are dragging me into the politics of power supply. So is it not
a hopeless situation?
You are dragging me into the politics of power supply. I will do my best to resist it. But let me just say something. As I came into the studio, I came with a book on Africa that I'm reading currently. And the few pages I have read, about 13 to 15 pages, this is a history of over 5,000 years ago. All those who lived during that period are dead. But you see that those challenges that were there then, they were able to go through them and they were able to surmount them. Human beings will always have challenges. Nations are not built overnight. They are built over a period of time. People go through these challenges. I made an argument in my master's class. I said, if it takes you about 18 years to train your child before you can almost confidently allow that child to leave your sight, what about a nation of different human beings? How long will it take you to manage them consistently until we can come into that space where the system will run on autopilot? I don't think it's a hopeless situation. I just think it's a part of the process. I'm in social science. I think it's a part of the process of social development. We will get to that point one day. Yes, it may seem as if it's getting too long to get there. When we were doing table telephone, did anybody ever thought that we'll get to the point of... Did we, for all of us who are here, did we ever thought that a day is coming when the cat pusher will have his own phone? We never thought of it. It was something that I remember in my younger days. You go and stand in front of somebody's window and be watching NTA. It was only NTA then, and it will come around 6 p.m. Shh. Now, I mean, look at Daily Trust, for instance. There was a time when it was only one radio station in this country. There was a time when it was either New Nigerian, Daily Times, Chronicles, West African Pilot, and things like that. But see, the media space today has been opened up. A time is coming. In fact, I know that in some locations in this country, people switch off their fridge and say, no, I can't take it again. You won't believe it, but that's the bitter truth. So we will get there. Don't be discouraged.
Well, all right.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. We really enjoyed having this conversation. Hopefully you join us again for another discussion another time. Well, we've been speaking with Oyebode Fadipe. He is the General Manager, Corporate Communications, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, giving us perspectives on the recent conversation about electricity tariff, and the metering system in Nigeria.